We're going to close out the fifth chapter of Gittin, the chapter really of Darchei Shalom, the ways of peace, just by circling back from relationships with Gentiles to relationships inside the Jewish community. And we're going to bring a Mishnah, which in fact we've already learned, because this is a Mishnah from Shavuot, it's a Mishnah from the sabbatical, relating to the sabbatical year. And of course, if we're not going to buy food from someone who doesn't keep the sabbatical year, but maybe we can have other kinds of relationships with Jews who don't keep the sabbatical year. And maybe that applies to non-observant Jews generally. And this, of course, this kind of idea is very relevant today. But this is the idea that the Mishnah picks up, the last Mishnah in the chapter. Mashelet isha lechaverta hachashuda al hashvi'it. A woman can lend to another woman who's suspected of not keeping the seventh year. So we got these two neighbors. One of them is suspected of not keeping the sabbatical year. And we're going to lend to her. What are we going to lend? We're going to lend her a fan or a sieve or a mill or a stove. So we're going to lend her equipment. So if she wants to process food that may not be suitable, may have been collected, or let's say she's collected food in the seventh year, but she hasn't returned it to the field at the proper time when it's supposed to be returned. So she's owning sabbatical produce when she shouldn't own it. We're not going to prevent her sifting or grinding or baking with that, but velo titchan ima, but she shouldn't grind. Velo titchan ima, she shouldn't grind with her. So in other words, we're going to lend her something that allows her to grind possibly dubious produce, but we're not going to actually do it. Similarly, Eishet Chaver Mashel Eishet Am Haaretz. The wife of a Chaver can lend to the wife of an Am Haaretz. Now, today a Chaver is considered from someone who supports the community, and an Am Haaretz is considered someone who's ignorant. But in the time of the Mishnah, a Chaver is someone who's particular about taking Truma and Maser, and an Am Haaretz is someone who is not particular about taking Truma and Maser. And by the way, not particular in general about Tuma and Tahara. So there are going to be certain barriers if we mix our food up with them. Well, let's go back to the Mishnah. So the wife of a Chaver lends to the wife of an Am Haaretz a fan or a sieve. And she's going to winnow and grind and sift with her. So she's going to work with her. There's no problem in principle about engaging in all these activities with her. So, okay, maybe she's not particular about taking tithe, but okay, the food maybe doesn't need to be tithed yet. It's not like seventh year produce, which we cannot trade in at all. But there's a but. There's always a but. And both these Mishnayot begin aval. Aval. Misha tatil et amayim. Once she pours water over the flour. So once she pours water over the flour, it becomes liable for challah. You've got to take challah. And of course, if she's not particular about tuma and tahara, she may be essentially this challah could be tameh as soon as she takes it. As soon as she takes it, so the challah has to be taken, but it's not suitable for challah. It's not suitable to be given to kohen if she's not particular about tuma and tahara when she takes it. So as soon as it becomes liable for challah, lo tiga etzla, she doesn't touch anything with her. She doesn't come into contact with it. She'ein mechazkin yedei ovrei avera, because we don't mechazkin, we don't support, we don't assist those who Ovrei Avera, who committed transgression, who are basically kneading dough but not able to take challah in the proper way. וכולם לא אמרו אלה מפני דרכי שלום. And all of these rules all of these rules were only said because of the ways of peace. So we push the boundary quite a long way in terms of the ways of peace. ומחזקים ידי גויים בשביעית, and we support Gentiles in the sabbatical year. This seems to be support them kind of verbally. We can say, oh yeah, great job you're doing plowing your field. We're not going to employ them to plow a field or pay them to plow a field because, well, we can't plow a field in the seventh year. But they can plow their field in the seventh year. So we can say, oh, good morning, great job. That's what the Mishnah seems to mean by mechazkin. Umechazkin yedei goyim b'shvi'it. We can support Gentiles in the seventh year. Aval lo yedei Yisrael, but not Jews. You wouldn't go up to a Jew in the seventh year who's plowing his field and then say, "Oh yeah, what a great job you're doing." We just wouldn't. We wouldn't do that. Veshoalim bishloman mipnei darchei shalom, and we greet them. We greet shoalim bishloman. We ask for their peace, i.e., we greet them because of the ways of peace. Mipnei darchei shalom. We maintain friendly relationships. Mipnei darchei shalom. And that's the close to the fifth chapter. And the Mishnah then, having carried out this long segue, goes back to one of its essential questions, which is how do we transmit a bill of divorce via an agent? Remember, the Mishnah is always interested in the edge cases. So when he gives her the bill of divorce right into her hand, well, there's no question. But if it's given via an agent, it raises all kinds of questions. We dealt with this in the fourth chapter. And now we're going to, after having carried out this long excursus, we're going to come back to it in the sixth chapter. So the sixth chapter opens, Ha'omer hitkabel get zeh le'ishti, or holech get zeh le'ishti, a man who says, receive this get on behalf of my wife, or take this get to my wife. If he wants to retract, he can retract. We're talking about an emissary, essentially, which is taking the get to the wife. And we've already learned that as long as the wife hasn't received the get, she hasn't received the bill of divorce, it can still be cancelled. He can send another messenger out saying, stop. He can send a messenger to his wife saying, oh, no, I didn't mean to send you that bill of divorce. When it gets to you, ignore it. He can cancel as long as it hasn't reached her. But it doesn't work the other way. If a woman says, receive the get on my behalf, so she appoints an agent. Well, as soon as the agent has the get, as soon as the agent has the bill of divorce, the deal is done. Her agent is herself. It's as if she's received the get. Even if he wants to retract, he can't retract. He can retract his own agency, if you like, but he can't retract the agency of his wife. He doesn't have any jurisdiction over that. So maybe if the husband said, I don't want you to receive it on her behalf. I don't want you to receive it on her behalf, but just carry it and give it to her. In other words, he makes this agent into an agent for carrying the get to the wife. If he wants to retract, he can retract. He can always retract as long as he's appointed an agent to take the bill of divorce to his wife. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Af ha'omeret, totally get imratza lachzir lo yachzir. And Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is going to sort of emphasize the fact that the wife's agency is not it's not retractable. Nothing can be done about the wife's agency. Even if her language is slightly ambiguous, totally get, she says, take for me a get, rather than hit gabel get, take for me the get rather than receive for me the get. Even if her language is slightly non-standard, imrat salah zir lo yahzir. If he wants to take it back, he cannot take it back. His agency may be cancelable, but her agency is absolutely not cancelable.